Hello Year 7. Today we're going to be measuring and classifying angles. Now just a warning as you start to watch this video, unfortunately I am unable to show an on-screen protractor to show how to measure angles, but I will be doing my best to explain how this is done when we get to those sections of this workbook. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is classify our angles according to their size. The first size that we're looking at are angles that are between 0 and 90 degrees, and you can see a little example of what that would look like over here on the right. That type of angle is called an acute angle. Next, we have an angle that is exactly 90 degrees, or you can see it over here again in the diagram. This is called a right angle. An angle that is between 90 and 180 degrees is called an obtuse angle. And you can see that as we're going down here, the angles are getting bigger and bigger. So bigger than my right angles, bigger than that, but smaller than a straight angle, we have our obtuse angle. 180 degrees is the straight angle. Bigger than a straight angle would be a reflex angle, which is between 180 degrees and 360 degrees. And finally, if it is exactly 360 degrees, we call it a revolution. Okay, so on the next page, something can be used to measure angles. So this is where our protractor comes in. A protractor can be used to measure angles. Most protractors have increasing scales marked both clockwise and anti-clockwise from 0. To use a protractor, these are the steps you take. Place the center of the protractor on the vertex, which is the point of the angle. Align the base of the protractor along one of the arms of the angle and measure the angle using the other arm and the scale on the protractor. A reflex angle can be measured by subtracting a measured angle from 360 degrees, because 360 degrees is our whole revolution. So if we can't measure the reflex angle, we measure the smaller one and we subtract it off 360 degrees. So unfortunately, these are the questions here that I'm unable to put the protractor on the screen for you. But if you have a protractor, you need to be able to put your protractor on that diagram. You would line up the center point of the protractor on the vertex here at F, so make sure that the little T-bar of your protractor lines up on the F, and then line up the bottom arm across this line EF. Then using the numbers around your protractor, you want to see how far around does it go until we get out to this line G. And if you've measured it correctly, you should get that that is 125 degrees. Okay, so that is the measurement in degrees, but the question also asks us to name the type of angle according to its size. 125 is between the 90 and 180, which is what we call an obtuse angle. Okay, part B, this is the trickier one to measure on your protractor because we don't have protractors that, well, at least in our school, we're not using protractors that go bigger than 180 degrees, and that is far too big, that arc around there for us to measure. So instead, we are going to measure the one on this side. Okay, so we get the protractor out, line it up so it's points on the vertex. You might need to turn your protractor upside down, line up the bottom arm across this line here, and then measure all the way around to this line E. Okay, and what you should get is 130 degrees. Now remember, that was not actually the angle that I wanted. I wanted the one over here in blue. To find that reflex angle, I start with 360 degrees because that's an entire revolution, and I subtract off the 130 that I measured because that's the bit that I don't want. That is equal to 230. So this angle that I want here is 230 degrees. it is a reflex angle, which is why I had to do this special technique. Okay, so just remember that for big angles, measure the smaller one and subtract it off 360. Protractors can also be used to draw angles. Okay, again, this is going to be tricky for me to show without a protractor that I can bring up on the screen. But to draw an angle, we're going to draw angle ABC, which is equal to 75 degrees. We're going to follow these steps. First of all, we're going to draw a baseline, which is the angle BC. Okay, so here's my baseline, and I'm going to put the B at the center, and this is going out to point C. Line up the protractor, so this part you can't see unfortunately, but I do have my protractor that I'm lining up so that the T-bar at the bottom is on the B, and I line the bottom arm up across that line there that I've drawn in blue. Okay, so now I want to measure around to 75 degrees. So from that bottom side, I find the 0, I come around to 75 and I put a little dash next to my protractor. And from the B, I'm going to line that up with my ruler and draw a line coming out to that dash. Okay, so this angle that I've measured is 75 degrees around there. And this is going to be, it says down the bottom here, we're drawing the arm from B out to A. So I'm going to put an A up here. So remember that the idea of this question was that I was trying to draw angle ABC. So I've got A, B is my vertex, C, and I've used my protractor to measure that 75 degrees. Okay, a harder example here, it says using a protractor, create angle XYZ, which is 265 degrees. 265 is too big for a normal protractor. So the first thing I do is I start with 360 and I subtract off the 265, which is 95 degrees. And I'm going to measure a 95 degree angle instead. So using my ruler, I'm going to draw a bottom arm. Then, you can't see this unfortunately, but I'm going to line my protractor up on that bottom arm and put a little dash where the 95 would be, which is there. Then, turn the ruler around and join from the end of the line up through my mark. And that would be a 95 degree angle. However, I wanted the 265, which would be the one around this side. So that angle would be the 265 that I was actually asked to draw. And I also need these labels. This is meant to be angle X, Y, Z. So I'm going to put the X up here, Y is in the center, and Z out the other arm. Okay, so that's it. We're going to be using the protractor, measuring angles and drawing angles in your workbook now, page 3 to 10.